And we are live.
Yay.
Welcome back to Films and Fandoms with Kaylee and Lex. Once again, joined by Alex. Today, we're going to be talking about Leverage, Season 3, Episode 4, The Scheherezade Job. Now, before we get into this episode, real quick, I want to thank our sponsor, navgo.org. And if you want to support the podcast, you can buy a coffee on Ko-Fi at Films and Fandoms. I am putting the link in the chat for you guys. And also, we have a lovely little QR code that you can scan in the corner now.
And I tried it.
So
It works.
it does work. It will take you to the menu where you can buy a coffee. So we're gonna be talking the Scheherezade job. I think this is definitely one of the more interesting episodes of Leverage we've had so far in terms
Yeah.
of
It
concepts.
and I think it's a little bit more detailed of the jobs so far that we've had in this season. I like it a lot.
Yes. So a bit of a summary before we get into this episode. Now, the team works on getting closer to Damien Moreau by going after one of his associates, an African kleptocrat. I don't even know what that word means. Just what they use in the description. Oh, a roller finger, and a kleptocracy. Oh, I should have known that the government is corrupt leaders. Blah, blah. Oh, so basically they steal shit. Klepto gave that away. I'm an idiot. But anyways, to take down this kleptocrat, the team must rob his vault and time the music or time their heist to an orchestra. So I see. I'm trying to think of like any heist media that's used this concept before, besides this episode.
Um,
I don't think.
there was an early episode of White Collar.
What?
Yeah, there was one
I don't. Was there an episode of White Collar?
that had this kind of theme, but it wasn't like fully like there.
Yeah, I was talk. Yeah, like
But
I don't think they've ever like. I don't think White Collar they did a heist to, like like where they did with this, where they actually timed the heist to a song. I
I
don't
don't
think they've
think there's like I do know that there was a Castle episode that I watched that had it was a song and also it was like the theme for that season actually. This was during season 2 of Castle. I
done.
can't remember the episode off the top of my head, but I know it had that theme of thievery and lying and it had a very like Leverage-esque vibe to it because they had to work with a team of people who they don't really normally work with.
Barry,
I
Barry's
laughed so
watching
hard.
this.
Oh god.
Hi, Barry.
Oh god. Why?
Uh,
Oh, I'm gonna watch the
but,
shenanigans.
but the director for this episode, continuing on, the director for this episode is Peter Winther. Our writers for this episode are Chris Downey, John O'Bud, and Christine Boylan. And before we get to this episode, one of the other episodes that Peter Winther directed is The Lost Air Job. And he actually directed the first librarian movie, Quest for the Spear.
Oh yeah, no wonder his name sounded familiar again. I was like, I
Yeah.
had heard that name once before, but it's been a while.
Yeah. So that's kind of the connection because it seems like the impression I got, and this is actually something I got from personally meeting Dean, is like once like he likes you, he keeps you around.
Yep,
Which, to be fair, there's a reason this saying exists. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
true.
Which I think is honestly why like electric entertainment has been around for like 25 years now
Yep.
because of like that like concept of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And I like how in this con we see the team's different strengths start to shine in different ways than what we are used to in this at this point.
Yeah, because this
They
episode is
shine a little bit differently, and I like that.
yeah, this
The
one has
light is focused differently on the one person that's normally like the front or like the main focus, kind of like the main connection, is usually has been Nate. But now it's more. I would say it's more Hardison in this episode,
yeah, because
which I
Harson's
think
the star
is
of the episode.
very very interesting to see,
Mhm.
and it's
So
something we haven't seen before.
yeah, at least for like Hardison's story point, like we haven't seen him.
True. Yeah.
Also, to be fair, the last time he took center stage in a con, he got kidnapped by Russians.
Yep.
So I think, yeah, so I feel like we're getting kind of a bit of ahead. So let's go to the beginning of this episode. So we meet our bad guy, Alexander Moto, basically selling his country's resources. So it's a fictional country, Wadata, a fictional African country, I should say, of Wadata, where we see Moto is basically selling his country's resources to businessmen. And Alexander Moto, I didn't realize this at first, but Alexander Moto is played by the legendary Giancarlo Esposito. And for those of you who don't know that, he was in Breaking Bad, and he's been yeah, he was in Breaking Bad. He was also in Far Cry 6 as the antagonist to that game, and yeah, his other credits. That's mainly what I know him for. Is uh, Far Cry 6, the video game, and uh, Breaking Bad. And he was also in, I don't know if you remember this, but Netflix did this show where it took place in different time periods, but the stories were connected. But however, you could change how the story, like depending on what episode you watched, the story was slightly different. I think it was for some reason called Kaleidoscope. And Giancarlo Esposito was also in that one. But this man has been in movies for like decades, I think. So yeah, Giancarlo Esposito is absolutely legendary. So I'm happy they got him on a Leverage episode. Are you looking up his IMDb?
I'm trying to figure out where I recognize him from.
Because he's also one of those. It's that guy. People.
He was in one of my favorite. This was a trilogy that I loved growing up, especially heavily in middle school. The Maze Runner series. He was in the Death Cure. He was one of the
Oh,
One of
right.
one of the bad scientists after they break out and they see the control room.
That's here is the third.
Jorge, he was standing there and he goes,
That's the third movie, right? Or was it the
yeah, and
second?
he tried to is the finale of the trilogy, and he played Jorge in that
Yeah,
series. I no wonder his name sounded
because
familiar.
you know who made us watch that. We're not gonna
And
talk.
then also he was in one of my other favorite TV series that I'm currently rewatching on Hulu with Nico because why the fuck not? Because he's never seen it. Once Upon a Time, he played the Magic Mirror. That's
Ah,
where I also know him from too. Yep, those are the
I
two
feel
that
like
I know him from.
he's been in like I feel like he's been in a bunch of video games and
Yeah,
film.
a bunch of like
Yeah,
digital um, animated series and stuff like that. But those are the
yeah.
two
His voice is
TV.
almost as legendary as his face.
Yeah, and then those are the two series that I know him from. But yeah, I got introduced to him in the Maze Runner final final movie, which seeing his face again, it didn't click until I rewatched it. I'm like, wait, that's what? Oh,
Yeah,
it's like that's where I recognize you from. But also, once upon a time, he was the magic mirror on the wall, um,
yeah,
which is all incredible. He's an incredible actor, and he can do
he
voices
is.
so well. It blows my mind. And he can do
Yes.
accents incredibly well as well.
Like this one, he does well. In this one, I think he goes with more of a Boston accent, and we'll see that makes well. It's like it's a kind of a combo of I think African and Boston, which makes sense why we find out more about Moto's background and why like they're going after her. But we also find out in this scene that Moto's brother is actually the president of Wadata, and Moto is basically going for his throne.
Yeah. Um, but technically, they don't call it like a presidency. It's something else. It's like the chairperson or whatever, something like that, a chancellor or
Uh,
whatever. I can't remember exactly
It
the
is,
terminology that they
no,
use,
it
but
is he
um,
is the president.
but since then they've changed the vernacular of what they call those
Yeah, I think so.
that
This
seat,
I
which
think
is
it's also a fictional
but yeah,
kind.
at this moment it is the president. But I think if I remember right, it's like chancellor or something. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, he is like the power head of their home country. His brother is, and he's jealous and he wants that power. But I can't say I blame him. I can't say that I blame him because with power comes influence, and he feels like he hasn't been heard.
Yeah, and we
And
get all that when we do the rundown.
yeah, and but it starts to come out when we first meet him. Like he's like, "Oh, you're
That's the
insecure. I can
person.
see it. I
Yeah, and
can
then
see it."
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we also meet this reporter, Jane Akinyemi. We see her, she's on the phone. She's yelling at. I'm assuming it's her boss in the phone because she's kind of getting blocked from like releasing this article, and she gets to her car and then nearly gets run over in the
That's what
process.
you get for not paying attention.
Well, also they set it up that way because she had a ticket on her car. So the reason she stayed out the car instead of going immediately in is because she saw the ticket, and then the car came coming down, and she got up. Like launched herself into the car. Basically, the car took the window off, or the door off. Yeah, so we get our intro, and then immediately we see Hardison and Elliot bitching to each other as soon as they walk into the bar. And what's funny is they like bump shoulders, and I was like, "Damn it, Hardison!" And of course, Hardison's like, "What are you doing here?" And Elliot's like, Nate asked, like, basically Nate asked him to come to the meeting because someone tried to kill Jane. And then he's like, "What are you doing here?" And as take your daughter to work day was last week, which Elliot, yeah, so Nate, or Hardison says he's learning from Nate about what to do, or he's learning from Nate what he does for when he runs his own crew one day. So Hardison's, we see his plans. He wants to run his own crew eventually. And then, of course, they both sit down and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait. That's why you wanted to come? He's like, no, like, you can't do what I do. And Harrison ends up Harrison calls himself the Super Scrawl, which is I think it's a Marvel reference. And basically, the Super Scrawl
yeah.
is a character in Marvel Comics that has like, I would say it's the combined powers of like all the Fantastic Four, and I think maybe a couple other characters into like one being. And hers is like, I can thief, I can grift, I can hack. And then Elliot's like, can you fight? Which, look, later seasons, Hardison can get down. Okay.
Yep.
And what's funny is hers is like, I got a dog for that. His name is Megabyte. Which, if you don't know what a megabyte is, that is a unit of storage in a computer. So it's a geek reference. All in like 10 minutes of this episode, we got two. We get two nerd references.
And then
that's a record.
Literally, like, not even a few seconds later is one of my favorite scenes in this episode.
Well, Nate tells Hardison he can't do what he does, and I was like, "No, am I not smart enough?" Nate's like, "Oh no, you're plenty smart enough." But before Nate he can answer, like, but the hard part is Jade walks in. She's kind of shaky, she's polite. She sits down and then she kind of like lowers herself. She's like, "Those men have been following me," and we see two big African dudes come down, or come into the bar, I should say. And what's funny is Nate looks at Elliot and just gives a nod. Elliot stands up, walks over, taps the dude on the shoulders, kind of slurred a bit, and is like, "Hey, I think you got my jacket." And of course, the dude's all stoic, standing there, like, back off. And I was like, "Hey, man, I left it at the dry cleaners a little too long. I think you got my jacket. Like, if you just give it back." And then the goon punches Elliot in the stomach. And it's like, back off. And then you just see Elliot like reach up.
Yeah, and he does a wrist bend, and you hear crunch.
And then Elliot comes up, has this look on his face, like he's about to fuck shit up. And then he starts fighting the two. And then this is not an empty bar, by the way. This is not an empty bar. This is a full bar. And it was funny. He's like, "Sup?" And then he proceeds to beat them both up. But what's funny is after the one time he goes over to a lady, grabs her glass, takes a sip of it. It's like, Elliot, why are we stealing people's drinks?
But I love the fact that he just nods to her and goes back to beating the guy.
Yeah.
I never laughed so hard in my entire life. But the coolest part is that when he does that wrist, I think it's called a wrist lock.
Yeah, it is.
And you just hear a crack. Literally, you can hear it. And I go, "Oh, that wrist is broken, probably." And then I go,
"But okay."
Oh no.
But the sexy part, okay, the sexy part. Hold on. Sexy part. He sits down. This one of these is like, "Can your dog do that?"
And just like the eye contact, I'm like, "Sir." You just beat the shit out of two
If
people,
there's
and
two
you're
things
that
about
calm. What the fuck?
point that I'm obsessed with, it's eye contact, hands, and mouths. Okay, I'm like little like mouth movements,
I just
eyes.
like how like confident he is, and he's got a little swagger to him when he sits back down. And I go,
Can your dog do that?
and I'm like, you confident motherfucker.
Hey, hey,
And I can
confidence,
just, I
confidence
can,
is sexy when
I
it's not.
want to know. I want to know if it's probably on the audio commentary. I haven't been able to listen to it lately, but I bet you there was a moment that he broke character and started busting out laughing. How ridiculous that sounded coming out of his mouth.
I don't know why. I don't know why this reminded me of this, but so what was funny? So I made a TikTok where I lip sync to a lyric of I lip sync to the chorus of "Take Me to Church" that goes into like the final verse, and the I was lip syncing, "Take me to church, I worship like a dog at the shrine of the lights." Yeah, anyways, I wanted like a heated rivalry editor to make like an edit to like that particular part of the song. I wasn't thinking when I posted it how dirty the fucking heated rivalry fandom is, because then I get a comment on that video of fucking Hudson Williams with a dog collar around his neck. I'm assuming I don't know what the context is, and I'm not going to judge the context. But with with the caption, "Worship like a what?" and it was I fucking died. Though to be fair, if anyone would make me bark, it would be Elliot Spencer. Let's be honest, okay? And Hudson Williams, but we're not talking about that. So we get to the actual client meeting where Jane starts explaining that like the conditions in Moto's mines are like absolutely deplorable, and children are working these mines and they like make pennies in like these mines. And Elliot, we see this kind of gets personal for him because we see him, saying, we see like this look on his face. He's like, like I fought in these countries, and the kids that do end up escape, they end up getting like into the rebel army, and they explains that Moto uses like his companies in Boston to basically launder all these diamonds. That's like his income. And Jane also reveals that basically Moto is saving for an election as term limits will force his brother out in less than a year, and then Moto's going to take his place because in 4 days, uh, Moto's brother will be in Boston, and that's going to legitimize Alexander as his heir apparent back home. And also, Jane's article won't do anything as she's tried going to authorities in the past, but they've all like turned a side eye to her, or turned a blind eye to her. Though Elliot's face during this scene tells me that Elliot already knows what Nate's about to find out about why Moto is able to get away with this. And I think Elliot knows, or like Elliot already knows before Nate officially reveals it, because I think Elliot's been on the wrong side of things, or like been on the wrong side of that kind of thing before. like propping up somebody that maybe shouldn't have been propped up. Which I think again will go into the reveal that will happen at the end of season 3, which is that he works for Damian Moreau. I would not be surprised if he's done that for Damian Moreau. Would Did you get that impression too, Lex?
Um, I kind of got the like
Uh,
just from like the reaction. It was subtle, but it was there.
mm,
Of he's seen something similar to this, not just working when he
that's
was
true.
working for Moreau. It was probably more when he was in the military. He's seen
Military
shit like
contract.
this go down,
Mhm.
and he felt helpless once they left that country and went
Yeah,
home. That the
yeah,
bad shit was still happening, and he couldn't do anything to
yeah.
stop it, like officially end it. So he's like, yeah, this
I
is
feel
just
like
going to be
both.
another thing of like, we're going to be helpless if we try to stop it, and it's not going to happen. It's
Yeah,
some other bad guy's going to pop up and take control of this country, and the same situation is going to happen to another family,
yeah,
basically, is what is going through his head. And I can see it, and that was going through
yeah,
my mind. I'm like, there's that fear of like, they're not going to be able to stop this completely.
yeah. And I think both things can be true at the same time. Like Elliot could have seen it happen when he was like in the army, but when he worked for Moreau, he could have also done things to
Yeah, done
update.
things probably to mimic that, but not to that extent. It was
Yeah,
stuff that was way worse. But
yeah,
he's seeing bad people do very bad things for the
yeah.
sake of money or greed or to
So he's
better
seen,
their name and get rich fast, basically.
yeah,
And I think he's hesitant to want to help because of
yeah,
that. He's like he knows
yeah.
the
Like this
winning side
time,
of that, and he knows the losing side of that as well.
yeah, and he knows this time he can actually do something about it too.
Yeah, but he's
So
terrified of what's going to happen.
yeah, so Nate decides to test his theory about why Moto's able to get away with this because he meets with the Italian in his car, and she's dressed like she left a party, and Fanny's like she gets in his car and is like, "What did I like get you from like a party or some?" She's like, "I was on a date with a fugitive. He's no longer a fugitive." That's Fanny says like, "Oh, is that Sweden? Oh, I think I think she pulled a goodbye Earl on him."
Maybe, or she maybe called the cops
I'm going more with goodbye Earl, but
or
whatever.
something to that effect, maybe. But it's the freaking Italian. There's anything is possible with her. Like she could do anything.
Yeah. So basically, the Italian reveals that Moto gives the U.S. names of basically jihadists that in Africa, and the U.S. gives him money for this. And then what's funny is then at the end, the Italian's like, "Did you have dinner yet?" And then Nate imagines like going to dinner with the Italian, and then someone like strangling Nate. It was funny. His son rubbing his throat. It's like, yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, so they go back to HQ, and Elliot's like, "You're telling me that because he gives the US names, like this guy makes the money off the backs of children, and because he gives the US a bunch of names, he gets away with it?" Like he is pissed. And
But
Sophie's
for
like,
good freaking reason.
yeah. And even then Sophie's like, what's the bet that these names are just that these like jihadists that uh, Moto's given to the US are actually just his political rivals.
Yep.
And Nate's like, "Yep, I'll take that bet." And basically, Moto's, because he bought his Boston real estate at the top market price, he's leveraged up to his eyeballs. Heh, leveraged. I'm sorry, I had to. It was right there. You know they snickered in the writing room when they wrote that line. Don't give me that.
Oh, I bet you they full on fucking cackled.
I wonder if there was ever a challenge in the writing room where they were like, okay, each season, can we fit the word leverage?
Probably.
Not in the intro doesn't count, by the way. I'm talking in the actual episode. Yeah, so basically the only income that Moto's really got coming in is the diamonds. And what's funny is Nate's like, what's the best part of smuggled diamonds? And Sophie's like, oh, I know this one. It's the way they shimmer on a billionaire's yacht in the moonlight. Oh, what's funny is Ellie just like glares at her, and Nate looks at her, and Ellie's just like, because they're uninsured. and yes, and we also see that Parker is like looking at one of Moto's properties, which is an orchestra hall. So of course Hardison's like, no, there's no way a vault can be there. And what's funny is Parker's like, huh? Because based on this foundation, this looks like it's a vault. And Hardison corrects himself, be like, yep, that's what I was saying. And then Sophie, of course, profiles Moto, and says this all tracks because Moto's trying to up his profile with the old money crowd, by basically being like a patron of the arts. And also Nate realizes that Moto's weakness, or no, it's Sophie, sorry, realizes that Moto's weakness is his ties to America because his father had sent him away to basically boarding school. But like he went to university in the States. So, and he doesn't even like speak his native language. So that's like a problem that Moto's going to have if he tries to get an election. Because no one's going to want to elect him because he has no ties to his home country, really. And Parker has her problem that she needs to see the vault in order to break into it. So Nate basically decides to combine two birds with one stone. And he says the rallying cry, let's go steal the man on the street in Africa. And and then what's funny is you see Hardison doing some editing and Elliot's calling Jane, asking some questions, be like, hey, does Moto drink? And she's like, on occasion. And just like, why? She's like, no reason. Just stay in your apartment. Call me if you like, call or stay away from your apartment. Call me if there's any trouble. And we also see them fake a news segment using green screen. And then we see a clip of Moto and his brother fighting over video chat over these like articles. And Moto gets note from his goon that basically Sophie had offered to like help him with this, like his image. So basically, Hardison's going to be the man on the street, and so they set him up as like a immigrant from Wadata who is like a violin prodigy. And so back at HQ, Hardison has like a button cam on. He's going to help get footage for Parker. And yeah, but, sorry, I lost track of my notes for a second. And so, yeah, so Sophie takes Hardison into the vault with Moto, and Hardison sees the Stradivarius violin that Moto has. It was funny as Hardison breaks character for a moment when he sees the Strad. Sophie has to like clear her throat to like catch him because Hardison's so impressed because Hardison did actually play violin apparently when he was like four. He stopped when he was like 14, but he apparently was pretty good. But he hadn't played it really since. Yeah. So, but Parker, there's another problem because Parker says that they can't break in because there's a lot of invisible security that they can't see because uh, there's no like cameras in that. And it's a Glenn Reader system, which I think this is the first time. Is this the first time we hear the words Glenn Reader? I think this is the first time we hear the words Glenn Reader.
Um,
Is it?
maybe. I don't know.
I feel like this is. So basically, Glenn and Reader are the last name two, or so it's named after Melissa Glenn and Jessica Reader. Now Jessica Grassi because she got married. But the security system's named after two of the writers of Leverage. And so Nate then says they have to get basically someone else to shut the alarms for them. And the last time the alarm was shut off was when the orchestra played the 1912 overture, and they had to shut off the alarm because they were worried about accidental set-offs. And so Nate pivots the con, and now it's escalated because now Hardison has to actually play the violin. So Boy is not a happy camper this episode. I will
And
say that.
actually, the first time we hear Glenn Reader actually is from season 1. The bank shot job is when we first hear it.
Oh wait, that is right.
Yeah.
That is
This
right.
is like the third episode that we get a Glenn Reader little name drop, which is awesome.
Yes.
And it's the security system that learns as
That's the Durango.
yeah, it's weird. It's like
Yeah. And readers just
which would you rather take, a system that learns everything about you and like how you move, and it learns like it's smart, or this? I would take the dumb side and I would try to run.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, needless to say, Hardison isn't a happy camper this episode because what's funny is he comes down from like Nate, like the he comes down the stairs and it's like, what were you like napping? And Hardison's like, hey, do not talk to me right now. Like I because he's got to play the violin in front of a crowd now. And then Sophie comes in and reveals that the song that Hardison's got to play is Scheherezade by Korchakov, I think is the name. And
Yep,
Alex
I
actually,
have
let me.
a vinyl of it. I
I don't
have
know
a
if
vinyl
I was going to see this, but the
of
vinyl
it.
is actually it says Scheherazade,
Yep,
and if
and
you
then on
flip
the back,
the
it's got the name.
Korshakov. Okay, I was close.
Yep,
Actually, it's impressive.
and I listened to it, and it literally made me cry. It's just so
It's a
pretty.
very good piece, but
And
Scheherazade.
yet, did I did get this at an estate sale, and I was like, "That's coming home with me because of the Leverage episode," and I immediately started laughing. I
So
laughed, and my dad's like, "What are you cracking up at?" I go, "Oh, this." I was like, "It's from a TV show that I watched."
yeah, but
So I
the thing
listened to it, and I legit cried.
but the thing about Scheherazade is it has one of the most it has one of the hardest violin solos in a piece of music, and it's going to be Hardison's solo. So now he's even more pissed off because now he's got to go dust up an old violin, and
Yep.
to make
And
work,
this is
he's got
based
to.
off of and Scheherazade, the song that's played. It's based off of the poem The Arabian Nights,
Arabian Nights.
which is a beautiful, beautiful story.
To Arabian Nights.
And it's an
Yeah.
actual folk
Yes.
tale actually of
Actually, a series of stories.
yeah.
It's a series of stories, one of them being
Yep.
Scheherazade. So the story of Scheherazade is basically, and Sophie goes into this in the episode, but the story of Scheherazade is basically she. So there's a sultan who so a story from Arabian Nights about a sultan. He marries a new bride every night and then has her killed by morning. And then Scheherazade is basically Scheherazade's like the next bride, and she starts telling him the story, and she leaves it on a cliffhanger, and uh, she tells the story so convoluted that the Sultan dare not kill her for fear of never knowing the ending of the story, and she survived for 1,001 nights until the Sultan fell deeply in love with her, and
Yeah, it was a mind trick to keep him on the edge just so she wouldn't die because she knew if she died, her family would get nothing.
yeah, and then eventually
Basically, it was, and
he,
I looked into it. It was because her family was dirt poor, and the only way that they would get any money to survive was if she married the sultan, and she kept him on that cliffhanger for and and she would change details each night until he finally agreed to marry her.
so
And she would change the details very subtly.
so the first time I ever performed on a stage, almost, God, hold on, how long ago would this have been? Let's say I was probably about 10, so almost 14 years ago, when I was around 10 years old. The first ever play that I did for community theater, and Perry, if you're still watching, you would know the Rights Theater. The first ever community theater play that I did was actually Arabian Nights. I don't
That's actually
remember.
really cool.
I don't remember if we did. I feel like because it was children's theater, I don't think they would have done Scheherazade. But I feel like they might have, but they might have like did that for like the older kids. I was like part of the young bracket. So I played a thief, ironically enough,
Of course.
who it was the magic carpet. So the story about the magic carpet. So I was one of the thieves. I think my name started with a G that basically killed or was trying to get this magic carpet. And I remember having such a hard time because we didn't have prop knives. Like I didn't have a prop knife in my hand. So I just had my hand like this, going like, "Rrr, rrr," like I'm a fucking psycho. But because it was like so distracting to me that I didn't have a prop in my hand that I kept smiling. And it took me so long to like work that out of my system because it bothered me so much. So, if we're talking like the invisible string theory, the first ever like community theater production that really got me into acting was Arabian Nights, where I played a thief. The first TV show, or like the TV show that inspired me to seriously pursue acting, was a show about a group of thieves. My first production that I, my first indie production that I did, Moonlight, was about where it was like where I was obsessed with wolves. Elliot Spencer, or slash Christian Kane, I guess I should say. His spirit animal is a wolf. My first major film production that I did, that I was a background on, How to Rob a Bank, I had a wolf mask, and it's also about a heist that's live streaming.
Oh, that's awesome.
What am I doing right now? And to think that all started almost 14 fucking years ago with Arabian Nights. Is there's all this started was because 14 years ago I did Arabian Nights at my
That's
community
awesome.
theater.
My I guess my story is a little bit different. I I loved writing. I still do. It's a hobby of mine. It's something I really want to pursue, but at the moment I don't have the funds to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one thing that I did, I got to write my first script. This was back in 2006, 2007, something like that. I was in 6th grade, and we had to. That was one of
I
our.
would have been 3.
This was our one of our I guess projects for English class was to write a script, and I spent weeks. I kid you not, weeks writing and rewriting scenes and everything, and then the day of, I hand out my script, and I'm the director, so I'm like, okay, you go here, you go over there, you stand kind of off to the side right here, and you'll walk in when she says this line here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about this young girl who got bullied,
Mm-hmm.
who ended up confronting her bully and befriending him because she saw the weakness that he had, that he was
Mm-hmm.
taking out on her. And it kind of backfired because the person that I chose to be one of the kind of background people, like kind of talking in a group and then pointing at the person that was supposed to be me in this production, was now my ex best friend. And she threw a fucking fit over not having enough lines. I'm like, well, because one, you're a background character. Two, I wrote this because it focuses on these 3 people, not just you. So
Yeah.
if you don't like it, give me the fucking script and get out of my face. So she
Yeah.
threw the script at me. She literally threw the fucking script at my face, and
Oh,
she got an F for participation that day.
good.
And it was really fun. I got a thrill out of directing people and telling them to stand here. And speak with a little bit more attitude on this line here.
Yeah.
It's
Tell the story.
it's supposed to be. It didn't make sense when I first I've gotten better at writing. I've gotten better at script writing.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I wrote my second script just a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to find it and I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
It's very short. It's very short.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and it's actually about a heist, actually.
Oh, nice.
But I really think it's really cool that that's what kind of inspired me to want to try to pursue film or
Mhm.
TV in some way. And yeah, I put in PA, like I applied to be a PA for our local news station here. I tried to apply to be a PA for a local newspaper, and it didn't pan out. Um, so I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep applying, and yeah, I am still writing, and I am still script writing because it's fun,
Mhm.
and I like to challenge myself to one, create new characters, and B, create emotions that feel so raw that you feel like you're feeling them for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what sparked my love of TV and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
actually like watching the script come to life.
Yeah. And also it's cool, like, just the invisible string that, connects back to, like, one thing,
Yeah,
and, yeah, so that's my connection to Scheherezade, and that it all started 14 years ago when my mom, because my brother was the jock, so he was doing sports, and my mom was like, "You're not sitting in the house all summer doing nothing. You're finding a hobby." Which is then she discovered the community theater, and everything kinda escalated from there.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, moving on. So, yeah, so not only so going back to Hardison, because this is basically Hardison's equivalent of Alex Walker's "No Good, Very Bad Day,"
Pretty
which
much.
I think was what I said when we talked about the Almost Paradise episode, I think it was episode 5, Unbecalming.
Yep.
I think I called it Alex Walker's "No Good, Very Bad Day" because this is
Dang, that's been a while ago.
Was, but this is Hardison's basically equivalent of that because he's got to play the hardest violin solo ever in music. He's got to do it in front of an audience. He's got to do it acting like he's a violin prodigy. He's got to play a Stradivarius, which if you don't know what a Stradivarius is, it's basically like a really famous violin that was made by, hold on, I'm consulting Google for words. Uh, created by Stradivari family, particularly Antonio Stradivari of Cremona, Italy during the 17th and 18th century. And basically, these are like the best violins ever made, which actually, I think if I remember correctly, on an episode of Mysteries at the Museum, I think, yes, there is. It's actually a few times Stradivariuses have actually been stolen. So, and I remember there was one. It was stolen from like concert halls, and yeah, uh, yeah. So moving on, and also Hardison has 2 hours to get to rehearsal, so he's very pissed off by the time he leaves. And we also get this line of dialogue between Nate and Sophie. Or Sophie's like, "Nate, is there something you want to tell me?" And it's like, "No, but you said it yourself. He's the perfect candidate." But no, no, sorry. Sophie says, like how like when someone like a con goes to prison, basically they'll like pick up on skills, so like pickpocket, may learn safe cracking, and Nate's like, like picking up the thing for the old 2 blocks here and there. And he said yourself he's the best candidate. So we don't know what that's about yet. And Hardison gets out of rehearsal by faking a phone call that is, that his mother got hit by a moped. So, so Parker is eating cereal and she's telling Nate the plan. She's back at HQ. She's telling about like the obstacles basically that they have, which is 2 doors and a guard and a keypad. Sophie and Elliot are getting the code for. So Sophie goes in. She's bringing equipment to check she's claiming to check the acoustics because not only will they be broadcasting this concert that they're planning to through the radio, uh, they're also going to be like videoing it. So Sophie's bringing in equipment, claiming that she's checking the acoustics, and she mentions a very sensitive lens. Of course, we don't see what she's talking about. And Elliot's spraying a keypad with, I think it's hairspray. I think it's hairspray.
Yeah.
He's spraying on the keypad. He kind of gets busted, but uh, he like then pulls up his phone to video the guard, and then tells Parker like this is this number, this is this number, and then this, and then he shines like a UV light on the hairspray to see the fingerprints, and it's like the other numbers of the code are this, this, and this, but not in sequence. Which basically means Parker's got to try all the combinations until one hits. And Elliot's got to take out the guard too while she's doing this. And so basically, this has got to be a really specifically timed heist because they'll turn the sensors off back on as soon as the concert's over. So, and it's like, we need our own like conductor. So he's decided because he looks at the Scheherezade sheet music and he points like, okay, here's where Elliot takes up the guard, here's this, and they're basically timing the music to the heist. So they prepare for this. We see Hardison rehearsing, and he's not doing too well. I think the nerves are getting to him. It was funny as Parker then comes in and she's kind of failing on her pep talk, which this scene's kind of funny because you could tell Parker's trying her best. We're just saying like, no, you have to do good or else like the children and whatnot. Like she totally adds more stress to Hardison that he's already feeling. Yeah, she's just like, I'm trying to get your adrenaline up. Hardison's like, if I get my adrenaline up, my big hands are gonna break this damn violin. Which yes, adrenaline can actually do that. Well, like cause like increased strength actually, believe it or not. But my trick to dealing with stage fright, I did get my adrenaline up. And what was funny is what I would do is I'd get my adrenaline up and then I'd listen to music. Because like my adrenaline, it would get me focused and it would uh what word am I looking for? Overwrite That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
It would,
and actually, it would cancel out what you were feeling.
it would
It would give
override.
you a secondary emotion for your
Yeah,
brain to focus on instead of that
yeah,
fear.
yeah, and it would override my fear. But then I'd listen to music, and then that would calm me down, so I could like lower my heart rate and just focus on what I'm doing. And I mean, it worked. So yeah, yeah. So now it's heist time. Hardison's in the crowd. He's scared shitless right now. But the heist, it kind of gets off to an interesting start as Nate goes to meet with the Italian because she sends him a message saying to meet him. And the Italian asks Nate to get an envelope from Moto Safe and then put in the envelope she gives him. And of course, Nate's like, no, like, I'm not your mailman. But then the Italian reminds Nate of their deal. But so he agrees. Hayes goes off relatively smooth. Elliot's taken on the guard to allow to get Parker, or they got the guard away from Parker, so she can put the code in. She gets it. They go in. They time it. Parker blows the floor with the guard inside the debt cord circle. By the way,
Mm.
yeah. So she blows the floor. Sophie's going up. We don't see what she's doing yet. Nate jumps down with Parker and Elliot. And then Hardison's solo starts playing. And he kills it. And this is such a beautiful moment, especially of camera work, because the camera is on Hardison playing the violin. And then you see like Parker, you see she's got tears running down her face. You see Elliot's, he's holding his ribs, but he's just kind of looking like down a bit, and he's listening. And Nate's like standing there. He's also listening. Like Hardison actually playing it with Sophie's just smiling and like a proud mama bear. And so apparently, fun fact. So as if Aldous Hodge wasn't already talented enough being a watchmaker, a writer, director, producer, can fight, can kind of sing. He also apparently can play the violin.
That's pretty cool.
And so like it is actually Aldous like doing the right movements with like the bow on the violin.
And a little fun fact: he actually, Albus actually talked to his violin teacher to get the hand movement correct to make it
Yeah,
look as real as possible.
yeah. So
So
it
like
is actually Aldous though doing the bow movements with
the
the
bow
violin.
movement and the finger placement
But they
too.
do have it, I think, for crispness and like to make it basically sound better. Instead of having like the actual soundtrack that Hardison or the actual sound from the violin Aldous is playing, they do have another track over top of it for like to make it a bit cleaner. But it is for all
But yeah,
rights and
he
it
yeah,
is
and
actually
he
playing
in
the violin.
the at the IM in the IMDb like trivia thing, he had practiced for I think 3 weeks with his violin teacher to get the hand movement correct, and he's like, I wanted to make it as real as possible.
Yeah, like
And then
Aldous
he
also,
and then he went and actually learned how to play it like a little bit. like a clip of him actually playing. I think is around here somewhere, but he actually trained with his violin teacher to get the hand movement correct, and he wanted it to feel as real
That
as
was
possible,
Mhm.
which is really, really impressive. And I did not know that he and his brother both play violin.
Yeah,
I
I
did not
didn't
know
know.
that. That's pretty cool.
So going back to the episode, so everyone's gotten sucked into the music. That once everything stops and the sentries go back on, the alarms go off, and now they are stuck in the vault. And Nate tells Hardison to stay put and don't break his cover. And Moto and his brother show up, but Moto tries to pass it off as like he tries to pass it off in his favor, and Nate then turns it around because Nate starts telling a story and starts setting up this idea that Moto set this whole concert up to assassinate his brother to legitimize his uh, claim to the throne or to the presidency, I should say. And Nate also sets up the idea that they're CIA agents because we know Moto's been given names to the CIA.
Yep.
What's funny is Moto's brother is like, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my eyes, but basically Moto's brother tries to get him to admit to like what's in the envelope that Nate's got in his hands, but he won't say anything. And also, it turns out that safe or not safe the lens that Sophie had set up or that Sophie had brought in was a sniper rifle, and so they set up the idea that there was a sniper rifle, and Moto's brother's convinced that Moto's trying to have him killed, so he arrests Moto, and yeah, they all leave, and Nate. It was funny. Sophie then walks up to him, and is like, "I was like like that was as good as Scheherezade," and so we see then Nate meeting with the Italian to give her the envelope, and she is like, "You didn't open it." It's like I don't I don't open other people's mail. And then Nate reveals that he knows that the envelope isn't a tie to Moreau like the Italian had originally said. It's a tie back to her. And of course, the Italian's like, in the service of good, sometimes we have to do bad things. We have to work with bad people who do bad things. And it's like, really? Because I work with bad people who are a lot more honorable than you'll ever be. And if we're gonna keep having this arrangement, never play me again. And he
I
leaves.
like that he's a little bit pissed off. It's kind of funny, actually.
Well, it is because Nate's realized that the Italian was using it and not to go after Moreau, but he was for in that case, she used him to clean up her own mess. And if there's one thing Nate hates is getting played and being used too. So back at the bar, Jane reveals that she did publish her article and Meadow is in jail. And the charges, well, they know they won't stick, but it was enough to get a warrant for the vault, which revealed the diamonds. And what it was funny is Elliot does say, and I quote, "He's never going to be president now."
Hamilton.
Never gonna be president. That.
why didn't that? Why didn't I catch it the first time that I watched it after I watched Hamilton?
I don't
I'm a
actually.
little offended now.
I don't know if Hamilton and Leverage intersect, but it was just funny.
But that's funny that there was a mild, like a little bit of like a Hamilton reference right there, which
Yeah, I'm sure probably just coincidence, but it's still funny.
oh, that's hilarious.
Nate then gives Jane a check because they ended up selling the Stradivarius that Hardison got a hold of. Because remember, Hardison played the Stradivarius.
Yep.
So, and they suggest you use it for a music foundation. And Elliott's like, I wish you could do more. And Jane's like, small effects or small acts have ripple effects, which I think is something unexpectedly important for Elliot's growth because this is the season where Elliot's quite literally facing the ghost of his past.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if this episode is constantly thinking of like everything he's done and like all the people he's hurt and like the effects he's had on them and now like he can do something good for once. And what's funny is Parker tries figuring out how Hardison like pulled it off. I was like, because she thinks he put a gizmo in the Stradivarius. And Hardison's like, no, you don't put a gizmo in a Stradivarius. But then Nate reveals that he hypnotized Hardison. So remember when Hardison like came down from his nap? That was because Nate put him to sleep for hypnosis because he wanted to clear the essentially the cobwebs out of Hardison's mind, so he had the confidence to play the song. And Hardison's get, and also Sophie was involved in this because she says, a Vegas hypnotist can pick out a mark from a crowd, and so can I. And that's the other reason why it's Hardison now. I think that's the other reason it was Hardison, because Hardison apparently was easily manipulable. But Hardison gets pissed off, saying, Nate, that's something you do to a mark, not your own crew. And Nate's like, no, that's exactly what you do to your team. You push whatever buttons you need to get them to do what you want. And Hardison leaves. He's probably all pissed off. And then Parker leaves right after him, probably to comfort Hardison. Because Nate did cross the line. Like he full on used Hardison. Instead of just saying, like straight up, hey, I'm gonna hypnotize you. This will help you. Nate just did it. And then Sophie, of course, has to have the button on the scene and have the last line. Because she tells Nate, alone at last, alone again. If I didn't know you any better, I'd say you prefer it that way. And then she also leaves. And that I think is going to be that I feel like that line's going to be more relevant when we get into like season 4, because that's like the scene of consequences, or that's the season of consequences. But I think that line is actually extremely important because you see Nate. I don't think Nate actually does want to be alone. Just he can't help his need for control. I think he also is in his own way, it's trying to like protect the team by like making sure they're at their best. But I don't think he realizes like how much of a red flag that is that he just hypnotized someone without their consent. But yeah, so that's the end of the episode. Some final notes I got. I thought this episode was really fast paced, and I think it was very unique with like the time and the heist to the music, and I feel like also in this episode, Hardison got a reality check from Nate that maybe running a crew isn't exactly what Hardison thinks it is. But Nate also gets a reality check from Sophie saying he can't keep getting away with doing this shit or else it's gonna have consequences. Like the team's just not gonna take it anymore. Now they're gonna start calling him out on every shitty thing he does. And this is like the first time we kind of see that this season is the team calling Nate out on the shitty behavior. And yeah, I mean those are kind of all I really had to say about this episode. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just I like the fact that um we get to see kind of like a different perspective. This con was different than the ones that we've seen before this,
I feel like
and
it also really pushed the team too.
yeah, it challenged them to think outside of what they're used to, which I really really loved. And I just love seeing Hardison have to basically literally face his own fear for
In
once,
front of a crowd, yeah.
because all of the others don't really have a fear that, and if they do, they've faced it already, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
He's,
And I feel like
until this point, and I really really loved that he faced it and he was confident about it afterwards.
yeah.
Of
And I
I
feel
I did that, and they're even a little bit proud of him too. They're like, we didn't know you could actually play. He goes, I didn't think I could actually do it either.
yeah, because Hardison's they're saying, you know, like like I don't have like I just let it rip and like killed it. But yeah, I feel like this is the episode where the team is kind of getting a bit of a reality check.
Yeah.
I'm talking about everyone, not just like Nate and Hardison, but like Parker, you know, realizing I think that you know, maybe she's not as invincible. I think the inside job really showed her that she's not as invincible as she thinks she is. And we see that in this episode where she's kind of more cautious. She's like, okay, like I can't break into a vault if I can't see it. And she also knows when some like she under like is now admitting when something's a bit too much for her. Because, you know, once she sees the vault, she's like, no, we can't break in. It's likely gonna have this, this, and this security measure. This is how we're gonna have to do this. I think Sophie also gets a bit of a reality check this episode when she realizes I think she realizes like how much Nate still has to like overcome before they can like before he's like in a place where they can actually have a healthy relationship. And I think Elliot's reality check is more that he is able to release what I don't know what happened.
That
No,
was weird.
we're fine though. But yeah, Elliot I think kind of has his own reality check of he he can't he realizes, I think, he can let go of his demons, even if it's just this tiny one.
And I also think that with Elliot in particular, he realizes that his past is slowly catching up to him.
Yeah, this is like,
A little bit at a time with each job, it gets closer and closer.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
because
funny, but also terrifying.
yeah, and as we know, it ends all the it's gonna end with like, there's reason why the second to last episode of season 3 is called The Big Bang Job.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, we know Hardison's reality check is that maybe he's not as confident to run his own crew as he thought he was. And also
And
Nate,
he also realized that maybe I'm not quite ready for that just yet.
yeah. And
He still
also
needs
that,
the way that I think that I've heard Aldous put it. He wasn't quite ready because he still needed some training.
yeah, which is like why he still like watches Nate.
Yeah, he's learning from Nate, and he's also learning from Sophie too, together on what basically the playbook on what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I kind of I feel like that's kind of all I have to kind of talk about that episode. So I mean, if there's nothing else, I'm kind of gonna start winding down this
But yeah,
episode.
I think. But going back to this,
Oh yeah,
the fact that this episode stuck in my head because when I was at this estate sale, I was just looking for anything that I recognized, and then my eye caught that, and I'm like, I know what that's from. I know what that is because I had heard the name in music class and everything like that, and in choir for years, but I had kind of forgotten it. And fun thing is, 2 days before we went to this estate sale that I got this vinyl at, I had watched this episode.
oh,
So it
that's
was in my
awesome.
head a little bit. And I am actually eager to actually listen to this and actually
Yeah,
hear the music, literally.
and also if you think about it, this episode goes along with like the with the story of Scheherezade, like the idea of telling the story is so convoluted, and with the cliffhanger, you don't like you want to keep around to like see the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's nothing else, I'm gonna start wrapping up this episode.
Okay.
So first, I want to thank our sponsor, natco.org. And if you want to buy a coffee on Ko-Fi, help support the podcast, it's Films and Fandoms. If you want to join our Discord, that is the invite code. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at FN Fandoms with Kaylee and Lex. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at FN Fandoms and on Facebook at Films and Fandoms. You could go on my website, kayleecentelacting.com. You can follow me on Twitter at MissMovieFan_67 and on TikTok at MovieFan_67. You can follow Alex on Instagram at Alex_the on Twitter at AlexTheAlleyCat, and on TikTok at AlexTheAlleyCat. And you could go support our friends over at Mall Filmworks. That's Mall Filmworks is their Facebook. Go see what they've been up to lately. So the next episode, we're going to be talking about the season 3, episode 5, the double blind job, which will deal with the big pharma essentially, And then after that, guess what episode it is, Lex? It's Studio Job.
One of my favorite of
I'm
the
so
season.
talking about that episode. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday for a new episode. And yeah, this weekend it's actually my birthday on Friday. And so to celebrate my birthday, speaking of Studio Job, I will be headed to Nashville. That's gonna
Nice.
be exciting. I'll be heading to Nashville for my birthday. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. So like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Follow us on our socials, and stay tuned for when we do the next episode, where we'll be talking the double blind job.